Greetings, everyone. Today is Monday, March 8th, and here is today's Monday Morning Minute. To start with, I'd like to go over that mid-semester feedback form that you all completed last week. I'll tell you about some high-level feedback that you all provided and some adjustments I'm making going forward. Then we'll talk about the critical literacy narrative, which I've graded, and you should see feedback from me, and if you can't access it, please let me know. But I want to give some, again, 30,000-foot view comments about those too. Then I'd like to talk about our second chapter of the Hiller Spires book, Read, Write, Inquire. That's our reading this week. And then a couple course notes. We'll talk about critical response number 3 and what I would love for you all to do. And then we'll talk about drop-in hours. I'll explain everything in a few moments. Okay, so thank you all so much for completing that feedback form. It was so helpful. It's just such an important thing to get sort of a temperature check, especially about halfway through the semester, which we are, which is wild. In general, it seems like folks really appreciate the flexibility of this course in terms of deadlines, in terms of, blend of synchronous and asynchronous, and that's all fantastic. So happy to hear that. Also, we're about split. If you look at the chart on the right, which is a breakdown of our responses, we're split between thinking there's an okay blend of synchronous and asynchronous, and almost half of us wish that there were more synchronous sessions. So to sort of take that issue, about half of us wish that we could meet more. And I heard from a couple of you anecdotally that online discussions are tough for you in terms of pushing your own thinking. I've tried to kind of solve both of these problems. So I've added totally 100% optional synchronous sessions on Tuesday, March 16th, and the following week, Tuesday, March 23rd. This is all updated on our course calendar document, the Google Doc. It's also updated within Canvas when you look at the modules. And these are 100% optional. They also correspond with critical responses 4 and 5. And here's the deal. If you come to those synchronous sessions, that will count as your participation for critical response 4 or 5. So if you come to both sessions, that counts as your participation for those last 2 discussions. If you want to check out one, that's great. Again, you'll get that credit. I want to make sure that that's crystal clear. I'm not asking you to do multiple things here. So on those weeks, either you can come to our synchronous class session, or again, if it doesn't work out, no worries, no problem whatsoever. You'll just complete the critical response that week. And I imagine that these optional synchronous sessions will be more of sort of just like a discussion hour for us or so. Sometimes in large lecture halls, you'll have maybe a breakout like recitation where you talk about the readings, you talk about, discussion questions. And I imagine us kind of doing that on March 16th and March 23rd. So we will for sure talk about whatever critical response questions were assigned for that week. That'll certainly be part of it, but it'll also be a space for open discussion as well. Let me know if that is confusing or if there are questions. Again, I've updated these optional synchronous sessions. They're now included on the course calendar and on Canvas. Okay, some really high-level comments about the critical literacy narrative, and I'm not going into specifics because these were, often really personal, and without, your express permission, I didn't want to necessarily share these, those personal aspects of your lives with the whole group. But in general, I saw across the board just excellent integration of course content and course concepts. Yes, fabulous. More of that always. Please always feel free to bring in other content, perhaps from other courses you're taking, or, information, articles that you've encountered before that seem relevant. Yes, please get those academic, intellectual juices flowing. Love it. Secondly, I just really appreciated the breathtaking diversity of assignments. Some of us did podcasts, some of us did narrative PowerPoints, some of us wrote papers, and that it was all just really exciting and was super enjoyable to go through. And also just kind of as a note for you all too, clearly in your role as teachers, there will be times when you need to focus on specific writing skills, right? But I would also urge you, when you're able, if there are multiple ways for students to demonstrate their learning, their understanding of the course concepts, build those in, again, as you're able. This is just kind of a cool reminder of that. And then finally, please keep those critical lenses on as we proceed this semester. So now we're getting into more of the discipline portion of the disciplinary literacy course. And so we'll be thinking much more about our own content areas. But please, again, bring those critical questions, bring those insights, those critiques with you. Pack them in a suitcase, perhaps, and take them on for the rest of the journey. Okay, this week we are reading chapter 2 of Read, Write, Inquire. The chapter is called Relating Disciplinary Literacy to Inquiry Through the Project-Based Learning Model. And basically this chapter takes you through their project-based learning model, and it gives insights into, the 4 major core content areas and what it would look like at each step for those particular content areas. So of course, feel free to skim over the content areas that are not yours. Of course, I also think there's some value in reading the whole chapter cover to cover, because as you'll note, they're really interested in bringing the disciplines together, right? So what happens in math doesn't just stay in math. We're also talking about it perhaps in social studies and in science and in English and vice versa. So again, I don't fault you at all if you're just kind of skimming over those other sections, but it is important to walk away with this thinking of with an understanding of how all of these content areas might work together. And to help us, because as you know, your final project is to essentially create your own project-based learning or inquiry unit, I'm going to ask us to start doing some of that work in the critical responses. So for this week, we have critical response number 3. Your initial post is due on Thursday, the 11th. Give 2 follow-ups to your small group members by Sunday, the 14th. And for right now, I want you to brainstorm a topic for a potential project-based inquiry unit within your own content area. So once you have that topic, you're going to generate 2 to 3 compelling questions, which are explained in the chapter this week, that could drive your students' inquiry. Then, for the actual critical response, I want you to share the topic with your colleagues, share those compelling questions, and also share a description of your thinking. Why did you choose this particular topic or these particular questions? How do you see it going down in a high school class? Anything that helped inform your process, that context will be useful. And then with the follow-up responses, I'm going to ask you all to give feedback to your colleagues about their topic and their questions. So as you'll see in the chapter, they talk about the process of working together to refine the compelling questions. They also give some criteria for compelling questions. So use what you know to be true about compelling questions based on the chapter to give feedback to your colleagues. That is all that I have for you this week. Thank you for tuning in. And, oh wait, there's actually more. Psych. Okay, a couple things. So course notes, I do have to cancel drop-in hours this week. Unfortunately, I have an appointment that cannot be moved. But I do encourage you to stop by for my office hours on Tuesday, 1 to 3 p.m. I'm there, either by phone, as I was last week, as Tom knows, or just generally in my home office. So I am, and I'm also available for meetings beyond this too. So if Tuesday 1 to 3 will not work for you, just let me know. We can find another time. But that is all, I promise. Have a great week, everyone, and I so look forward to reading your critical responses this week. All right, cheers.